and welcome to What Happens in This House Stays in This House, Strength Over Silence podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Montgomery Dozier, and once again, I want to thank you for listening. Today, I am very excited about this week's podcast. I have the amazing youth pastor, author, director, actor, I don't know what else to call him, Mr. Jay Collins.
Hey.
How you doing today?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, awesome. Well, before we get started, just tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So my name is Jay Collins. I am a singer, an actor, an arranger, songwriter, author, a certified public speaker now, and I am the youth minister of our children's church, and my church is First Church of Deliverance. Reverend James Bryson is our pastor. And that's a position I've held, for like the last 15, 16 years.
Oh, wow. That is a long time. And question for you, like during this time, I know that a lot of churches are social distancing. How is your church doing with that?
So, of course, we have canceled our physical service. All of our services and ministries, Bible classes are online. And we have meetings to develop, different plans on how we're going to go forth from here. Those are Zoom meetings or telephone conference calls. And that's basically how we have, kept it moving. Now, specifically with our children's church, what we decided to do is to, even when everything is going back to normal, say, June, July, or whatever the projected date is, we're still going to keep children's church closed until it's time to go back to school. And we plan to follow the same guidelines that the Chicago Public School and the Archdiocese school systems are following.
Okay. Now, there has been like a big debate like all over social media about to go to church or not to church, as if you go into the church, if they say it's open, that it has something to do with your faith. How do you feel about that?
You swinging right out the gate there, Tammy. So first of all, we need to get some ground rules established. I need to know what I can and cannot say.
Just go for it. Go for
just
it.
What? Oh, okay. If I cuss, I'm sorry. I'm going to just excuse myself now. Okay. But no. In all seriousness, even I was a little leery of like closing the church doors and not having service when this all first came down. Mm-hmm. But a gentleman from our church, who's an archbishop, is Archbishop Lucius Hall. He started at my church and then started his own church. And at the very beginning of like the first Sunday, when all of the churches really kind of got together and said, they were going to stop having services, and they didn't. He had a luncheon or some sort of affair for his birthday the very next day, that Monday. That had been planned, of course, for months and months. And 3 people from that luncheon, including him, contracted COVID and passed away.
Wow.
That put everything into a new perspective, because it's like, okay, I understand about church, especially in the African American community, where church is more than just a place to go. That has literally sustained and carried us through each movement in our existence, from slavery forward, through Jim Crow and the civil rights, Me Too, all our movements, we kind of gather and look for direction from the church. So I understand, but in the long run, this is what I live by. Mm-hmm. However, I'm being directed by God, and this is, when I say me and my house, I mean me and my family. This is personal. I go by how I'm being led according to God, and I don't care what anybody says. Whatever God leads me to do for me and my family, that's what I'm going to do.
I agree. Now,
no judgment on anybody else.
Right. Right. And another thing, like with the church, and this podcast is about mental health. What part do you think that the church has done enough on their part as far as like the mental health goes, or do you think that we talk about it enough, or do you think that we can do something different? What are your thoughts on that?
I thought we have absolutely not done nearly enough. This may upset some people, but I just got to say it how I feel it. We as African Americans, we tend to use church as the crutch, not to deal with and handle our mental health and different types of situations. We'll say in a minute, I don't need to shrink. I got Jesus.
Yes, definitely.
And if that's the truth, then you ought to hear Jesus leading you to the doctor's office to go help yourself. The scripture that says, physician, heal thyself. That my interpretation of that is literally stop procrastinating, stop making excuses, and deal with what you need to deal with to better you and your household.
I totally agree. And even like when I talk to people now about my story and you listen to some people do not want to admit that they are depressed. They'll come up with every other excuse about what's going on with them mentally, but they do not want to talk about, well, you know what? I got some things going on, because it is such taboo that if we say that something is wrong with us, then we're looked at as being weak.
Yeah, that's that survivor's mentality, which unfortunately we were thrust into this country as slaves. And so our entire mentality, whether we are aware of it or not, is all about survival. And so we tend to view mental health, like you said, as weakness, when in all actuality, if you have some sort of condition or issue, it's really a sign of strength, because your mind is taking safeguards to protect you. And it's like you ignoring the signs is what's weak.
I agree. Do you find that out that with your youth, do you find out that they act out, or are you able to tell if one of them are going through things, or do you approach them, or do they come to you? How does that work for you in your ministry?
So because I've been doing this for so long, I kind of know the signs when I see them. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, to be honest with you, Tammy, it's not really the kids, because if you lead and guide them, they'll go.
Okay.
It's what's at home that kind of tends to stand in the way, because mama and big mama and them and uncle and whomever can't accept or deal with there's something to deal with until there's a tragic or some sort of outstanding situation and they have no other choice, because maybe they're court ordered at that point. But it's like it didn't have to get there. You know what I mean?
So you find out that kids are taking on adult issues pretty much.
Yeah, I'm like, that happens, but I'm not even speaking of that. I'm speaking of issues where everybody knows something's going on with the child, but the family won't come to terms to do anything about it. And it's like, come on, so, but what you're talking about, that happens a lot too, where parents, I call it projectile issues. They kind of project their issues onto the kids. Mm-hmm. It's like, I just feel like as adults, as parents, as family members that are older, we've had our chance at youth and childhood. Our job now is to steer those better than maybe we were steered. And a lot of times we don't do that because we have issues that we never dealt with.
That's very true.
And so, it's a whole cycle that's perpetuated all the time.
That's true. So if we had to do an overhaul of all the churches and we had to come on one accord of everybody around, what type of program do you think you would implement to try to get us all on the same page so we can help each other and get rid of this stigma?
I feel like calling you Martin Luther King, because that sounds like a dream. I don't know if we will ever be able to get on one accord. Just if you look at the different religions and denominations, that in itself is enough to have people hate and kill. And then if you break it down into further groups, okay, we're all supposed to be Christians, but the apostolics don't deal with the Baptists. The Baptists don't deal with Church of God Christ. Church of God Christ don't deal with the Gnostics. I mean, it's just on and on and on. So I'm going to go with you over to Dreamland to say that we're all on one accord and trying to get things done. I didn't forgot the original question. I got so sidetracked with all of us on one accord. What we supposed to be doing when we get on one accord, Tabby?
Just finding something, a solution, or what we can do, to make
Actually, it. That's the solution. If we would all just come together. That, and then the second part of that is we just have to realize and act on, we don't always have to agree. It's all right.
It is okay. Yes.
But we are so, especially in the church, we're so determined to force and place our view, our perspective onto someone else. And if somebody doesn't see things our way, they have the problem. It's like, no. We're the ones with the issue.
Yes. I so agree with that. So I know that you have been probably paying attention to the news because you're like a news buff like I am. So I'm going to kind of transition this a little bit over to what's been going on in the news over the last couple of days. First off, I want to start with the lady Amy Cooper. For those of you who don't know, who called the police on a black man who was bird watching in the park, in Central Park. And he just asked her to put her dog away because he was running through the grass and she didn't want to do it. And so she decided that she was going to call the police on this man. And if you look at the video online, you can tell that all of it was made up. She went into this tears. She got all emotional about it. And so the guy, he filmed it, posted it, and now this young lady has lost a job, the dog, and there's no telling what else. How do you feel about that situation?
Unfortunately, the first thing that comes to my mind about that situation is typical.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to sound biased or prejudiced here, but it's typical white woman stuff. And this opens up such a wound because I have not gotten over the Trayvon Martin situation.
Oh, God, yes.
So many years ago. And this is what this reminds me of, because had there not been video, that young man that was bird watching probably would have been arrested.
Definitely. And something else, he could have been harmed, killed. Yes, definitely.
And it's just time and time again. So people are trying to be a little satisfied that this lady lost her job. I'm like, okay, so she lost her job. She'll get another.
Yeah.
Even now it's like, okay, so you arrest somebody. They'll get off.
Definitely.
George Zimmerman got off for murdering Trayvon Martin. The officer got off that killed, and it's all on video, Philando Castile. It's like, so, I'm trying not to lose faith, not in the system, because the system will fail you every time. Yeah. I'm trying not to lose faith in humanity.
Yes.
And that's where I'm going with this, because there's a worldwide global problem with persons of European descent and this whole control, dominate, privilege that is universal. It's not just America. Yeah. Europeans especially try to put racism and prejudice off as an American thing. But it's like this whole Prince Harry, Duchess Meghan Markle thing has really shown such a bright light. It's like, no. You're trying to cast that over across the sea. But it's right here where it's always been.
That is true.
And I don't know if we will ever... My question is this, and maybe you can help me with this, Tammy. I just want to know, when did this happen? When did our Caucasian brothers and sisters get this sense of entitlement, privilege? They've always been violent. You can scroll back to the beginning of history. Mm-hmm. That's just how they are, even though they try to project that onto African Americans here in America. But that's, if you look back through history, our European Caucasians have always had a history of violence. And I'm just like, where did this come from? Because history also shows us that it was people of African descent, the Africans and people of color, who always led the way.
True. I think that it's always been like that. And I think it's always been like that with Caucasians from the beginning of time. And so far, we've never had the privilege of ever being on the forefront. And then when we did try to get on the forefront, it was all snatched away. A lot of this stuff has been going on for years. It's just that now it's just on camera. I don't think nothing has really changed. I think now we're able to tape it. Before, when people would talk about what was going on, that's all they had was just being able to talk about it. But now we're able to see it, and it's coming to light. Because think about all the lynchings and all the things that have happened in the past. And people talked about it, but nothing ever happened, even though nothing happens today. But it's been going on forever. So we're finally getting a voice. But I don't know. We just not getting justice.
Me about the voice that you speak about. I heard somebody say just recently, I can't remember who it was, and I'm paraphrasing, And they said our children and youth today have so much that they don't understand about coming together and fighting because they have nothing to fight.
Oh, that's very good. True.
And they're under this belief, and it's really false belief, that there is really no racism.
Yep.
Until something blatant happens. And even then, that old slavery mentality comes in. The first thing we as African Americans, as black folks do, and say, well, what were they doing?
Yep, blame. Yeah.
Right into it. It's like, what do you mean? You know, what was it? The man is out here watching birds. You know, this young lady, I can't think of her name, but who was killed in her home. When they executed a search warrant. That's her, Miss Breonna.
Breonna Taylor, yes.
Then they want to try to, damage and defile her reputation by saying, she was shady and that's why they were investigating her. But it's like, hold on, Jim Shoe. The people that you were looking for in the search warrant had already been arrested, though, before you went in this woman's house. And of course, it's one person's word against the next because the boyfriend came out shooting.
Yeah.
The police are saying they would knock on the door saying it's the police. He's saying no, they didn't do anything until they knocked down the door. So of course, not knowing who's knocking down your door, you're in defense mode.
Self-defense.
Right. So I'm going to see, especially how this plays out with the boyfriend, because that whole nonsense with George Zimmerman. Now here we have, if you remember, George Zimmerman first was trying to use the stand your ground law, remember?
Yes.
You remember the African-American woman who shot her gun in the air because her husband was attacking her. She was trying to scare him off so he wouldn't hurt her and the kids. And she got sentenced like 20 years and they ended up taking him back to court.
And she got out, yeah.
Reduced.
Yeah.
But I mean, she has still served like 3 years though. And it's like, are you for real? For real.
So let's go here. So next we want to talk about, now this is a video. His name is George Floyd. I have not been able to watch because I tend to get very emotional when I see things like this. And if you don't know about this man, George Floyd, they say that there have been different stories that he gave them a counterfeit $10 bill, counterfeit $20 bill, a counterfeit check. I'm not sure what it was. However, the police were called. And they tried to say that he was resisting arrest, and and if you look at the video, it clearly shows that he wasn't. However, what they did do, the police officer put his knee in his neck, and the man pleaded and told him that he could not breathe. He called for his mother, and he stated that you all are going to kill me. That is just so disheartening. And, and I worry, and you being a black man in America, that just something just so simple. I mean, even if he did do it, it wasn't worth warrant death. A counterfeit $10 bill was not warranted of dying. So anything goes. Would that have happened to someone else, a Caucasian man, if he had done the same thing? So for you, how does that affect you daily, being a black man going out into the world, knowing how people feel about you? Because I'm sure that you get reminded on a daily basis.
Thankfully, and I say thankfully, I'm blessed that I really have not had any encounters like that, especially with the police.
Okay.
But where I can relate is corporate America. And anytime something is presented and I don't agree, I have to remember to take the bass all the way out of my voice and stay very calm. Like I just can't say, are you kidding me? That is just dumb. Because if I do that, then I'm being called in a meeting because my behavior is aggressive. Or I'm being labeled as difficult. Basically the angry black man syndrome. That's where I see it most of the time. So like I say, thankfully, all of my dealings with the police have not been of such. But I will say, specifically in the Midwest, we target the South because they're known for a certain type of behavior. But the Midwest, because you have to remember, Mr. Floyd, this is Minnesota.
Yes.
Same place in 2016 where Philando Castile was shot and killed by the police in his car. There's the police officer gave instructions to pull out the paperwork for his registered gun and then shot him as he reached to do it.
Yes.
with the baby in the back seat.
Yes.
There is definitely a pattern in the Midwest that has gone overlooked. And as you mentioned before, but see, now we're in the age of technology.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can video. And I just saw a little piece of the video with Mr. Floyd because it was so tragic.
Yes.
To hear him calling out and screaming out and to see the look on the police officer's face with his knee on that man's throat.
Yes.
I don't care if he was guilty. Why do we have a criminal justice system in place if you can issue your own punishment right on the spot? That's not how we as a society says that's supposed to go.
Right.
But it's like you say, for years, this is just modern day lynching.
It is, definitely.
So things have, you said nothing has changed, but things have changed. They've done the same thing in a different way. And now that we have the technology to show it, it's still the same thing. You know, you're not hanging us from trees, but this is what you're doing. It's still a lynching.
That's true. Do you think that going out into the world, I don't know if other Black men, if you guys talk about this together, is it a scary thing for a lot of Black men out there, or how do they feel about it, or with their kids? I don't know. Do you guys have that kind of conversation with each other, or?
I haven't really had that kind of conversation. However, I have a similar conversation with the boys and young men that I'm over at the church because I'm terrified. This generation is so reactionary. And I try to drill them and school them. If you are stopped by the police, if this happens, especially around the age of like 11, 12, 13, because prior to like 13, when puberty and manhood sets in, boys are viewed a different way. When that puberty sets in, then they become America's, number one enemy.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that a lot of times, especially those who are in mixed communities. It's like what your Caucasian or Asian friends do. You don't have that luxury because they won't ask you what happened first on a prank. They'll shoot and kill and say you were threatening and aggressive. So that's what frightens me. And I do. And again, this has been a slow conversation to have in the church because nobody really wants to tackle that. But it's like these are conversations we have to have because this is what our kids are faced with. And I'm going to be honest with you, Ms. Tammy, a lot of times, especially these teenagers, they can be a bit menacing. You see a group of them coming down the street and they cussing and smoking and half high. It makes you want to, grab your purse or kind of go to the other side of the street because you don't know. But it's like, I can't be afraid of my own.
That's true.
And so the stance I've taken is, this is my family, this is my community, these are my people, and I have to stand up to make a difference. That's what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm. And think about that, and I don't want to come off as if like we're being, racist or anything, because we're not. When I was in grammar school, I grew up with everyone, and so I grew up in neighborhoods with everyone. So I understand the kids now today who don't understand about racism. It wasn't until I got older until I started dealing with racism or being known as, dang, I didn't know that it was as bad. It wasn't until, so just like you, I never really had to worry about that until I got older or going to a store or being followed. So, but there are good people out there. Not everybody follows this whole racism thing. It's just that, like they say, one bad apple spoils a whole bunch.
And the sad thing is, Ms. Tammy, it's more than just one apple.
That's true.
I chose a predominantly white high school to attend.
Mm-hmm.
That was my crash course in racism. Thank God the teachers really cared for us. I remember I was on a wrestling team and we would have wrestling practice. I couldn't stay outside and wait for my mom to pick me up after practice because they would drive past and throw light bulbs at me because I was Black.
Wow.
Verdoliak, who during those times was the head of the Verdoliak 13 against Chicago's first Black mayor, his office was right across the street from my school.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have school dances. They would say, "No, James, you can't wait outside. Whoever's coming to pick you up, wait in here." Because they knew people would throw eggs just because we were Black kids. It happened all the time.
Wow, that is something. So what I want to talk to you about now, when it's all said and done, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
So it's real simple. The legacy I want to leave behind is I want to have made a difference. I want to just make a difference, positive difference in my community's life, the community I live for. And I don't feel bad about saying the Black community, because that's what I am. That's who I am. And even more so than that, they need my help.
That's true.
And so that if I can, even if I don't care what it is, if I have sung a song and every time somebody hears that song, they smile, that's my legacy. Mm-hmm. If I've written something and every time somebody reads it, it takes them away from the burdens that they're facing at that moment, that is my legacy. Whatever it is that I do, I want to do it for the upliftment of the Black community.
Now you have a family motto. What is your family motto?
Which one?
The one that you have on your website.
I knew I should have had it pulled up so I can quote it to you. But no, what I'll do is while I'm trying to pull it up, since you done put me on the spot like this, my first mantra that my mom taught me as a kid was work hard, play hard, and in that order.
Okay.
And I live by that today because you need to work hard. But you also, especially as Black men, we need to get this. You also need to enjoy the fruit of your labor.
That's true.
The mantra you're talking about is what I call the Collins mantra, and it's honoring the legacy handed down to me by producing, stimulating, and creative art responsibly to inspire and enhance humanity.
That is beautiful. So you are an author too, sir. So I want you to tell the audience about your book and where they can purchase it.
My book is out now. It's called The Spirituals. And the tagline is Beyond Church and Religion Lies the Spiritual Awakening. And it's about the first family of a mega church. It's sort of Christian and sci-fi put together, or should I say spiritual and sci-fi put together. The kids of the family discover that they have these spiritual abilities, these gifts, and their parents are trying to hide and keep things from them. And in their quest to really learn who they are, they discover more and more family secrets. And in the quest at the very end to kind of bring it all together, they're almost there if they can get over this one last secret that they discover.
Hey, I read the book, people. You must get it. I know when I finished, I had to call him like, what? That's how you going to end it? That's how you going to do me? I cannot believe that. Well, Jay,
I love that reaction.
I want to thank you for being my guest. Hopefully in the future, I can have you on again. It has been awesome. Thank you for listening to my podcast again. My name is Tammy Montgomery Dozier. If you want to contact me, my number is 708-892-2278, 708-892-CAST. And my website is www.connectedbyloveconsulting.net. Thank you guys and have a great day.